Hey everybody, welcome back to another recorded learning module focused on the Chrome tools to support diverse learners. This episode, I guess I'll call it an episode, is going to focus on Chrome writing tools. So I'm not sure how you're watching these, but there's reading tools, executive function, how to use your Chromebook in general, and then this one. So there's a whole host of ways we can look at maximizing the use of Chrome tools to support all our learners in the classroom. If you're new to these recorded episodes, hello, my name is Mike Murata, and I am an AT specialist. There's all my contact information. So as you go through, if you have questions or ideas or thoughts, or you're not sure how to apply this to something you're doing to support a student, reach out. There's my email address, my Twitter handle, my website address. They're all there. Feel free, reach out. I'm happy to chat with you about this topic and any other topic you're interested in. So please feel free. Here's our thought as we go through this. Our overarching focus is writing. We'll break that up into a couple different subtopics as we move through. We'll talk about the concept of using tools to support universal design for learning within the concept of writing. We'll talk about the Google Suite tools for writing. And again, this won't be a training on Google Docs, but instead looking at creative ways to use features of the Google Suite tools to support writing. And so we'll look at that. We'll spend most of our time in this 30 minutes looking at different apps and extensions that we can use to customize the Chrome experience for each learner to help them in the area of writing. And then finally we'll wrap up with some next steps. As we're going through, please don't forget, you're watching this as a recording. So if something grabs you and you want to go explore it, pause the recording and go do that and then come back. That's okay. I will continue right on from that moment you paused me. I will just start right back up. But I want you to kind of take this information and find ways that you can make it work for you to support the students you work with. I'm not sure if you're taking notes as you go through this. I know that's what I do when I go to a webinar or sit at a webinar. I have pieces of paper and I write myself little notes as I'm sitting there because I don't think oftentimes we reflect enough on the things we're sitting through and watching and how we can use that information. So I encourage you, because this is recorded, take advantage of the fact that you can stop, think about it, write something down, come back to it, and move on. So I hope you do that as you go through. I hope you find something that helps you. I hope you find something that's new that you didn't know about before. So you have the recording because you're watching it right now, but if you want the slides, because some of the slides do have links in them that take you to different extensions and apps and websites and things like that. So the slides are available to you at bit.ly/mmatp-writing. That will take you to the slides. They are there. You'll be able to click on any of the pictures and any of the links to take you to the websites that I talk about. So definitely you'll have that information. Don't be shy about using those and clicking around and exploring some of those features as well. So in our whole kind of concept of what we're talking about here, I feel like everything that we're discussing has kind of this overarching idea that thinking about this as a universal design for learning approach to supporting the students we work with. This idea of being flexible in the way materials are presented to the students and the students can reply back. And the learning that happens has a high amount of flexibility built into it. That flexibility comes from options for engagement, for the representation of information. And in the case of this one that we're talking about now, we're talking about writing. It's that action and expression piece. How are we going to provide them options to express or demonstrate what they know? If they're struggling to type or write, how do we provide them some kind of alternate option for that to facilitate this process, and what does that look like as we go through. So I want you to keep those in mind as you see some of the examples of tools and strategies that I talk about throughout this webinar, and see how you can kind of fit that into this concept of universal design for learning and those 3 principles. So we'll talk a little bit about the Google Suite and how we can use some of those tools to support writing. And I think a good place to start there is in Google Docs, talking about voice typing. I mean, that is a powerful feature. It is one of those features that most people have found. But every once in a while, you find somebody who was unaware that Google Docs has its own speech-to-text feature. And it is very powerful. It does a nice job of recognizing a kind of a diverse field of voices, which is really good. There are a fairly deep level of commands you can use to help format and put text down on the page, and some commands to move you around. But it is really that voice typing program is a writing tool. It is for dictating text into Google Docs. Or if you're going to use Google Slides, you can put that in the notes section. So you have that ability too. So a powerful thing. This tends to be one of those features that people go to right away. And you know, there's oftentimes I'll hear comments from teachers of, well, this student, they talk all the time, so they should definitely use this because this will be a great support for them. And it might be. You know, that goes down to a definite maybe. Maybe, because the process of writing with your voice is deeper than just being able to talk. And this little chart comes from Kelly Fonner, and I love this idea of the thought of what goes into the process of writing with your voice. Talking is important, but it's not the only thing that's important here. There's a lot of other steps here. When we think about using speech to text effectively, we have to be experts, maybe not experts, but we have to have mastered each of these steps to some level to be proficient. We have to think about what we're going to write. So there is a moment of thought about it and composition. We compose that in our head, right? We put together the sentence we're going to say in our head. Think about it, compose it, then we talk. Okay, so there we are. Talking wasn't even the first piece. It was the third piece. Think about it, compose it, talk. Once you get it out, what do we have to do? Then we have to read what the computer put down on the page. If I also struggle with reading, I've now layered on another barrier to success here that I have to accommodate. So perhaps the student might need speech to text to get their thoughts out, but might also need text to speech to hear what the computer wrote. So there is this both ways of getting the speech to ensure that they can listen to what the computer wrote. They have to check it to make sure it's correct. They have to edit it potentially. Now, we don't always have to edit right at that moment. A lot of people will use dictation or speech to text and just get a lot of thoughts out and then go back later and edit, which is fine. And there's different people have different strategies of how to do this. And I've worked with students that look at this in both ways, where I have some students that just want to get everything out as fast as they can, and then they'll work through editing it later with some other tools and some other supports. I have other students that will dictate a sentence and won't be able to move on until that sentence is perfectly written the way they wanted. You know, and you know, I'm sure all of you have had those experiences with the students who struggle with the red squiggly line of a spell check, that they can't move forward until that red squiggly line is gone. And in some cases, what do? We just turn the squiggly line off because it slows down the writing process. The same thing with dictation. If you have a student that's going to struggle to move forward to the next thought because they're constantly perfecting the sentence they're in, it's going to lead to a very disjointed writing experience, because there's not going to have any flow to their writing. It's going to take them a long time to move through it. So different ways to do this. I have one student, and he got stuck in the editing piece all the time. And so what we did instead was he would dictate into his computer, but he would not look at his computer. He had to turn to the side, and he would look out the classroom window or somewhere else into the hallway, and he would just talk about what he wanted to write. And then we would go back later, because we found he was basically almost paralyzed by his own perfection for writing, where he could not move forward. And so I think this is really critical. This is where speech to text either works for someone or doesn't. And I think there's a lot of people that want to use this tool. There's very few that use it frequently. I don't know how many of you who are watching this right now have tried this and have stuck with it as a choice. I know I try it all the time. I'm like, oh, I write a lot of reports, I'm going to use this for writing. And I start, and then it just doesn't, it's not the way I write. So I just usually stop and I give up and I do something else. And so there are different ways to do this. It is powerful, but it's not for everybody. It could be a part of the writing process for everybody, but maybe not the final solution for writing. Maybe it is a brainstorming tool. It's an idea dump. Whatever it is, just to get the information out. And then they move forward with some other supports to help finalize the writing and then create their finished product. The other thing that is right in the Google Tools, it's in Docs and Slides, is the Explore button. If you go into the Tools menu, there is an option there for Explore, and as you're writing, it will bring up a web search right in the same window. I mentioned this in one of the other recorded modules, that sometimes, and I have many students who struggle with this, the moving from one tab to another causes a breakdown in the process, because it's that executive function, that managing of multiple spaces throughout a task. And I want to keep students in the same window, in the same view. And with the Explore button, you can turn that on, and you get a column along the right-hand side that gives you a web search tool, where I can go and visit a website to learn some information about a topic I'm writing about. Perhaps I can copy and paste some text right into Google Docs, whatever it is, but use that feature. It is part of your Google Suite tools. If you're watching these and this is the third Google module you've watched, you've seen me talk effectively about Google Keep in every single one. If this is the first one, get ready. I'm going to talk about this tool all the time. It's a great tool. It's part of your Google Suite. If you don't use it, you're missing out on a really powerful tool for organization and note-taking. Note-taking is where we'll look at it here. This idea of using Google Keep, it is a digital note-taking organizational tool. And what we look at is that Google Keep available to you anywhere. So any device you have, log into it, get the app, or go to the website at keep.google.com. It'll bring you right into it. You can use this as a note-taking tool. If you use it on your mobile devices in the app for Google Keep will give you an option for a microphone. And you can dictate into your device in Google Keep. And what's really interesting about this is that when you dictate audio, when it shows up in Google Keep, not only is the audio there, but the transcription of what you said is in the note also. So now you could use this as a writing tool. I have students who use this as a writing tool where they're coming up with ideas for a project they're working on for writing, and they will dictate notes in, and they're dictating fragments and pieces of what they want to write. And then when it shows up in Google Keep, it's already typed out. And then what they do is they open up Google Keep alongside Google Docs, and all of those notes will show up on the right-hand side, and they simply click and drag them into Google Docs. And now suddenly their writing starts to come together from things that they've done as they've been moving through that research phase of writing, or that brainstorming phase of writing. So it's not about sitting in front of a word processor. And maybe you have students who struggle with this too. For a couple of the writers I work with, their worst fear is a blank Google Doc with the cursor blinking. That is the worst thing that can happen to them, because they don't know how to start. They don't know how to move forward with this project. And so giving them options to do this in different ways, in different tools, becomes really powerful. And as long as these tools all tie together, it makes it very easy to bring it together towards the end to get something productive and complete from them, where they think they can't write anything, and suddenly they've dictated ideas into Google Keep, and when they pull it together, it's paragraphs of information that they didn't realize they were writing at the time. And then they simply have to finish it once it's in Google Docs. They pull it together, they use text-to-speech to listen to it, to do their editing piece, and they correct anything that needs to be corrected, and they're finished. So thinking about ways to bring these tools together is really critical for students. We think about some other ideas for the Google Suite for you to dig a little deeper into. Stick with voice typing, perhaps, because it's built in. You know, I'm a big fan of built-in. If you're not realizing that yet, wait till you watch the other recorded modules. I love built-in accessibility features. So look at voice typing. If you're on a Chromebook, look at dictation. Dictation works everywhere. Voice typing only works in docs and slides. Dictation on a Chromebook works everywhere. So regardless of where they're writing, they can use dictation. Think about using Google Drawings. It's one of the other tools in the G Suite, but perhaps you can use that as a tool for students to create infographics as a writing assignment. Thinking about options and providing them different paths to demonstrate their knowledge. Perhaps it is with an infographic, with pictures and text married together to demonstrate their expertise on a subject. So keep those in mind as we go forward, those other tools that might be there. All right, we'll spend some time talking about apps and extensions. And please don't forget, you're watching a recording. If something grabs you, go jump out and install it and play a little. Excuse me. So think about that as you go through some of these. I'll remind you one more time. I've reminded you every other time that I've done a recording. This section of the video is not about a shopping list. You don't need all these tools. Some of these tools have the exact same features. They may do them a little differently, but their feature set is pretty much the same. You are tasked at this point with figuring out where the students' needs and abilities lie, the environments they're going to use, they're going to be in to perform their tasks, the tasks they need to accomplish. In this case, it's writing and some part of writing, and then finally the tools. So keep that in mind, that the tools are the last thing we work towards. I'm going to show you some of these tools coming up and the different features of them. But recognize that you don't need to download all of them, because you might get a tool that does exactly the same thing as another. It might just do it slightly different. That becomes part of the conversation with the student and the team to figure out what's the best way for the student to complete this task. Okay, sorry, I don't know why my computer just decided to just reset itself in the middle of the recording. Give me 1 second. Let's let it come back. Odd. Isn't technology great? All right, here we go. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Okay. So as we go through, we'll look at some of the extensions that you can put in to customize the Chrome experience for the students you're working with. The first one we'll start with, and some of these are going to look familiar if you've already watched the reading module that I recorded, because some of these have features that are reading based and writing based. So you again start thinking about a tool that provides someone levels of support depending on their need. Is their need strictly writing, or is it reading and writing? Then we start looking at some of these tools that have deeper feature sets that might help. And the first one is a tool called Helperbird, which has a free and a pay. So this is one of those that has the freemium model. So it is, you get a certain set of features for free, and then if you pay money, a subscription based, it can be monthly or yearly, you can get all the extended features. Many of the reading features tend to be in the free. A font you could use as a writing tool, Zoom, and some of the color features are in the free, but a lot of the premium features are more of the writing tools. There's a spell check, there's spacing, there's dictionary, there's ability to add notes and bookmark things as you move through for research purposes. Those are all part of the premium part of this, but it does offer some nice features that maybe even allow a student to edit their own work and review their own work. I can't stress enough this idea of text-to-speech for review of what you've written. I'm sure everybody uses it at some point. I use it all the time. I'll write something and then I'll listen to it as the computer reads it to hear what it sounds like, to make sure I wrote down what I thought I wrote down. So using that as an editing tool can be very powerful. If you're going to write on PDFs, that becomes a big concern. Teachers share a PDF. A student who's not physically able to write perhaps needs to mark up a PDF, whether they type on it or write on it, or mark it up in some way. They need a tool to help them do that. And Kami, or Kami, I call it Kami, I'm not sure which way it is a tool. It is an app. So it's a Chrome app. It actually connects to your Google Drive, and you can set it as the default to open up PDFs in your Google Drive. So suddenly you have the ability to open up a PDF and then layer annotations on top of it. So you can mark it up with highlights and colors. You can draw lines through there and put shapes on there. Most importantly, for a lot of the students that struggle with writing, is you can drop a text box anywhere and just type right on a PDF. And these are all part of the free features. This is another one with free and pay features. But those markup features are part of the free. Even to the point that there's a drawing feature where I have a touchscreen laptop, so I can turn the drawing feature on and I can actually mark up the page with my finger or a stylus using the drawing feature, and that's also part of the free. So keep that in mind as a simple way to give students access to marking something up. When they're done marking up the PDF, they can export it again with all of the annotations on top of it and then share it back with someone. Nice and simple, but gives them that flexibility to complete the tasks that they need to using a PDF. We looked at these in the reading module. We looked at Snap and Read and Read and Write. We looked at them as tools for reading to provide text-to-speech. But the other part of this is both of these tools have functions built into them that are writing supports. The picture on the screen shows Snap and Read. I can be on a page to listen to it, but on the right-hand side, I can open up an outline. There's an outline column where I can highlight text in a web page and bring it into an outline. I can start writing my ideas in the outline. You see, this one was an authentic questions outline. This is one of the pre-made outlines within Snap and Read. I have a question about, and then the student drops in pieces of information from the article they were reading. What's really powerful about this as a writing tool is I can move to multiple windows. I can open up multiple tabs to do research about a topic, and I can pull information into an outline from various sources. The outline will will remember where I pulled that from, so it will put a link back to that web page in my outline, and it will also do the sources for me. So now I have a bibliography of the web pages I went to. Then when I'm done gathering my information and pulling together all of my source material, I can open up a Google Doc and simply drag pieces of information into Google Docs and then start my writing process. So it gives you a centralized place to collect information that you're going to use for the writing assignment. So that's how Snap and Read does it. Read and Write also has a feature for collecting information, but it does it slightly different. And this is another one of those moments where I say one is not better than the other. They are just different in the way they do it. And I think that's important to know when we think about the features of tools and what these features do. The critical piece is how they do it and what feature works best for the student. So Snap and Read allows me to pull source material into a single outline that lives right in the window as I'm working. Read and Write does things a little different, where on the Read and Write toolbar there are 4 colored highlights. As I go through a web page, I collect information by highlighting it in different colors on the page for different parts of information that I might want to collect. Perhaps I'm just using one color and I just collect everything in one. The color, that could be something that the student discusses with their educator about how they highlight information. But ultimately, you go through a page and you highlight it. When you're done on every page, you click a button on the toolbar that collects the highlights for you. And those highlights drop into a Google Doc. Then you could start writing. The difference of the two tools, the big difference in how they collect information is with Read and Write, I highlight each web page individually and pull out a Google Doc. So in theory, I could have 4 or 5 Google Docs at the end of a process of research that I would need to combine at some point to get one document. Whereas Snap and Read, it all, regardless of how many pages I go to, how many web pages I go to, all that information ends up in one outline. Not better, not worse, different. So think about that as you go through it. Those are some of the bigger differences in the way they collect information. I like to point out again that Read and Write offers free subscriptions for teachers, so you can get the product free for a year to explore and use it as a demonstration / trial tool with a student, so you can see how they would respond to using some of these features. But those are some ways that those two tools collect information. Both of those have a fee. For the students, they are both subscription based, so you pay for a yearly subscription. Some of the other writing tools that are out there, I mentioned in the Maximizing Your Chromebook session that there really is no free word prediction Chrome extension. There's word prediction within the on-screen keyboard of a Chromebook, but not really a tool for word prediction that's free. So we look at the tools that are out there, like a co-writer. On Read and Write, there is a word prediction feature within the paid version. So if your student goes to the paid version, that's part of the tool, word prediction. Co-writer is from Don Johnston. It is a standalone tool for word prediction. So it gives you the box with word choices. As I start to write, it gives me options that I can listen to and then insert directly into my writing. Co-writer as an extension, Co-writer Universal, basically floats over your windows. So any window that allows you to type into it, Co-writer can work with. So if you're in your email, if you're filling out a form online, whatever it is, I like Co-writer a lot for students that are filling out PDFs, because you can open a PDF in Kami and open Co-writer and it will drop right on top of it. And now they can use that feature to go back and forth to drop information into the PDF. But gives you the prediction. One of the key features of Co-writer that I find to be most powerful is the ability to have topic dictionaries. So I can create customized dictionaries of words that are specific to what I am writing about. I think that is critical for our writers, giving them the most opportunity for writing success, setting them up for that success in the beginning. As they move through the process, they already have those supports in place. Co-Writer also has a dictation feature. So if you're not on a Chromebook and you might struggle with the idea of dictation across multiple windows, if you turn Co-Writer on, you can have dictation right within Co-Writer that allows you to dictate into any space. There is a translation feature of Co-Writer now. So if I'm fluent in another language, but I'm not sure of the English word, I can say the word in the language I am fluent in, and it will give me options in English. So I have that support as well. So a powerful tool for word prediction. Another tool from Don Johnson, and again, I like the idea of this. This way, if you're an older user, I don't mean you being old, I just mean you're using the old version of Co-Writer. The older version of Co-Writer, the software tool, had a word bank feature. Well, in the world of Chrome extensions, Don Johnson has pulled that feature out and made it into its own extension, and it's called Word Bank Universal. And basically, you can turn this feature on, and any page you go to, with a click of a button, it will pull out an entire word wall of words that are specific to the article you were just looking at. So if I'm writing an article about this web page, I can click the button and look what happened on the right. It gave me an entire page, a box filled with words that were in that article that I might want to write about. Now I go to Google Docs, I have that active word wall that I can drag my mouse over, and it will give me audio of the words. It'll give me the audio prompt. If the words in that box are what I want to write, I can simply click them and they will drop into Google Docs as I write. So it gives me an active word wall to help support my writing as I go forward. A couple things for note taking. I think that's a powerful way we can use technology also on the Chromebooks. Perhaps you're familiar with the tool, the LiveScribe pen. The LiveScribe pen is a specialized notebook and a pen that work together. The pen has an audio recorder on it. So as I take notes in the special notebook, the pen is recording the audio in the room. When I go back to review my notes later, if I'm not sure why I wrote a certain note, if I tap the pen on what I've written, it will play me that moment in time. So for anybody who, writes themselves notes and then they look at it 2 days later and they say, what does that even mean? I don't even know why I wrote that. You could go back and you could tap that and it would play you that moment that you wrote it so you could listen to what was happening in the environment. Well, it's a powerful tool. If we're in an environment where there's Chromebooks, there is a tool that does exactly the same thing, and it is called Mic Note. With Mic Note, I hit a record button and it starts to record the environment as I type. And as I type my notes, they become time-stamped. I can insert pictures in there. I can write as many notes as I want. When I'm done recording, I can click on any of my written notes and it will play me that moment of audio from the room. So if a student is writing notes, they're recording a lesson, and their note says important, and then it goes on to something else. They didn't write anything else. They could click on that word important, and maybe it's a moment where the teacher is explaining that there's going to be a quiz next week, and here's what's on the quiz. And they can listen to that note. They didn't have to write anything. They didn't have to write all that information down. Instead, what they needed was a note prompt to remind them to go back and listen to it later. So I think that's a really powerful way to support students, especially students who struggle with processing. That seems to be a really powerful way to use things like Mic Note or the LiveScribe pen. That student that processes slowly. And I had a student that I worked with who this was his main issue, was he would participate in class and he would be listening. He would hear the teacher say something and he would instantly think, well, that's important. And then he would bend down to write his note, and he was so focused on writing his note, which took a very long time for him to write. When he looked back up, guess what happened? The class has moved on to something else. He has no idea what's happening now. And so using one of these tools like this. He started with a LiveScribe pen and then moved to MicNote because he wanted everything on his laptop. What he found with the LiveScribe is that he had this happen multiple times. He would forget the pad, he would forget the pen wouldn't be charged. There was a lot of moving parts with that because it was two pieces that had to work together. With the MicNote, he always had his laptop. He could simply open that up and start working. So for him, that made more sense. But for him, his notes, when you looked at them, made no sense at all because he would just type a letter and hit enter. And so all his notes had were just timestamps along the left-hand side with just a single letter. Then he would go back later, click on it, and listen why he typed the letter, and he would write a new note in there. Then he would go to the next one and listen to it and then write a new note in there. So he was able to do this in more of a time-shifted way because it didn't have to happen in real time because he had recorded it. Now he just had to go back and fix that for what made sense for him. A really powerful way for him to use that. Another note-taking tool, this is one of my favorites. I like this one a lot. This one is called YeNote, so Y-I-Note, YeNote. This allows you to go to a YouTube video. So here I am. I'm going to go to this YouTube video. If you have not ever watched this video, how to start a movement, this is something you should stop the recording for right now and go watch it. It's 5 minutes of your life. You will thank me for it. It is great. But I love this video. And so if I want to take notes on this video, I have YeNote, and what I can do is when I turn it on, here is all of the notes I've taken. And what it allows you to do is as you're watching a video, you can write yourself notes and they are time stamped so you can go back to them later and watch. Now I can just jump around the video into my notes. So as I watched this, I wrote myself notes, and as it's playing, I can hop to any of those parts. If there's a part in a video that I want to go back to later or I want to listen to another time, I can open up this Chrome extension called YeNote, and now every time I open this YouTube video, my notes are attached to it. So I can now save this video, so I could put this in a playlist, I could save it as a favorite, whatever I wanted to do. And every time I opened YeNote, these notes would be alongside of it. That now I have these pieces of information of what I needed to get out of this note. Really powerful. This replaces another tool. It's a great example of not getting too invested in a free tool, because what happens with free tools, they go away. There was a free tool called Video Notes, which allowed you to do this same thing, and it was awesome. And then it went away. It's a free tool, it disappeared, and that was the end of that. This tool has stepped in and replaced it, so this is another example of a free tool. Hopefully it does not go away, but it allows you to keep track of YouTube videos and add your own notes into it. We didn't talk about this in the writing webinar, but I could have. Book Creator. Book Creator, if you have not used it, Book Creator is an app for your iPad, or it is a web tool. So we'll talk about it from the web tool perspective, since we're talking about Chrome. Book Creator is a digital bookmaker. But if we're thinking about giving students ways to write and be creative writers, how about writing in a digital book space? Book Creator allows you to make digital books with text and pictures and video and audio and drawings. You can put all that into a page and create a digital book. You know, I didn't mention it before when we talked about the Google Suite tools. You could use Google Slides as a writing tool. Students could do this same thing in Google Slides and use it as a writing example. This is how I write. I'm not going to write in Google Docs, but instead I'm going to write in Slides or Book Creator, and I'm going to give you a visual representation with perhaps some other supports, maybe some audio, to demonstrate what I know and to meet kind of the core requirement. This is where we have that flexibility has to come in, of is writing the assignment physically writing or physically writing on a keyboard, or is a demonstration of knowledge the end result of the assignment? If demonstration of knowledge is the assignment, it doesn't matter whether you type it, speak it, videotape it, draw it. I don't care. It doesn't matter, because that's the key, is that I'm showing what I know. And Book Creator gives you the ability to do that. As a teacher, if you've never played with Book Creator, you can go on their website, bookcreator.com, and you can sign up for a free account, and it will give you a certain number of books that you can create without having to purchase anything. So you could play with it a little and see how powerful this could be as a writing tool for students. Perhaps get them set up, let them work together as a group to create a single book, and each student writes a page of that book. So as a writing tool, Book Creator can be a really powerful support. And I know I'm not supposed to say I have favorites. This is one of my favorites. I just think so powerful across so many areas of need for students that we work with. It is a really great tool. If you don't have the iPad app, this is probably the best $5 you'll ever spend for your iPad. It's a great tool, so check that out. If you want to dig deeper into extensions, I've showed you this one in the other modules, but I'll show it again. Visit Call Scotland. Call Scotland has this single page Chromebook App Wheel. And so the yellow part is the different parts of reading and writing that a student might need support in. And then the purple pie pieces that spring out from that give you tool examples you might want to try. It's not going to give you every tool that's out there, but it might give you a nice starting point. Look at some tools that might work. See some of the features that work for your student, that don't work for your student, but it helps you kind of narrow down where to start to at least get going on providing them some supports that they might need. All right, so you got some good information, I hope. We got some info to go forward to think about supporting writing. So what do we do next? How do you do something with this? Hopefully you've written down some notes for yourself. Reflect on that. Think about what it is that you can do to support your writers. How can you give options? Remember, if the task is not to demonstrate how you write, but instead writing to demonstrate mastery of a subject, can you use options? Can you use audio? Can you use video? Can you use pictures? Can you use them all? Think about that as you go forward, is what are we trying to accomplish with that, and what can we provide for our students to help them with that? And then one of my standard suggestions is start with things that are built in, move to free tools, and then pay for something. Don't start with paying for something. Look and see if there are free tools out there that you can use until they're not useful anymore. You use the features until the features run out that help you, and then you move forward and find something that you have to pay for. So think about that progression as you go for those tools. As you go forward, let me know. If I can help, I would be happy to help you. So please feel free to reach out. There's my email. It's mike@mmatp.com. My website address is mmatp.com. My Twitter handle is @mmatp. I'm on all those things. You can feel free to reach out and chat about anything. We can talk about this recorded webinar. We can talk about any of the other ones. I'm game to talk about anything you'd like to. So I hope this was helpful for you. And as you go forward, good luck. I hope you find some tools that help your students, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Take care.